You cannot change anything until you accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. There are people in your life who are invisible predators. You cannot see them coming. They do not announce themselves. They slip past your defenses like shadows through a cracked door. They smile at you in the morning, laugh with you over coffee, appear supportive, attentive, loving even. But beneath that surface, a quiet, relentless current pulls at your life, bending your decisions, whispering doubts, eroding your confidence. Imagine walking through a forest where every tree seems benign, every rustle innocent, and yet, among the foliage, predators wait. You cannot hear them, you cannot see them, but their eyes are on you. Your energy, your focus, your trust, all become prey. These people exist in every sphere. The colleague who subtly undermines, the friend who drains your joy, the lover who twists your reality. They are masters of invisibility. They operate in silence, using your own hopes, fears and kindness as tools against you. You have been unknowingly shaping your life around their influence, bending and breaking, because the forest hides them well. Awareness is not optional, it is survival. Without recognition, you drift into patterns designed by these predators. Your career choices, your emotional investments, even the way you see yourself can all be hijacked by their quiet manipulations. Perhaps it began with a slight suggestion that seemed harmless, a word planted carefully to make you doubt yourself. Or maybe it was constant comparison, subtle undermining, laughter at your expense when no one else is watching. Life does not demand that you notice these predators. It demands that you survive, and surviving requires seeing. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." These people are the manifestation of that unconscious shaping, a force you cannot confront if you remain blind. They do not wear armor or carry weapons. Their weapon is the ordinary charm, familiarity, kindness. It is ordinary enough to lull you into trust, dangerous enough to steal your life piece by piece. Yet, there is hope, because seeing is power. You will learn to recognize them, not by fear, but by clarity. Over the course of this journey, you will uncover 5 archetypes of people who will drain, derail, and destroy you if left unchecked. You will see the manipulator who cloaks control in love, the narcissist who mirrors only what feeds their hunger, the energy vampire who thrives on your exhaustion, the deceiver who twists truth into chains, and the silent destroyer who erodes your identity without a word. Each of these types wears a mask, and each thrives because most walk through life unaware, lulled by false comfort and superficial charm. By learning their patterns, their intentions, their rhythms, you reclaim the space they attempt to occupy. This is not just caution, it is preparation. The forest remains dangerous, but with eyes wide open, you move through it not as prey, but as a hunter aware of shadows, knowing how to anticipate, avoid, and protect what is yours. This realization is painful because it forces you to confront betrayal, subtle and raw. It forces you to question relationships once cherished, alliances once trusted. But pain is not punishment. It is awareness sharpening your instincts, carving clarity from chaos. You begin to see the threads of influence, how one word or gesture shifts your life's path, and the truth strikes with cinematic force. Not everyone walking beside you carries your good within them. Some carry only their hunger, some carry only the storm, and you, until now, have walked unarmed. Prepare yourself. Awareness is the first strike. Knowledge is your armor, and from here, the journey into the shadows begins. See the shadows, and you step into your power. People will do anything to avoid facing themselves. They will seek comfort, distraction, love, even if it is poison. You have met them. The ones who smile too easily, who laugh at the right moment, who seem to see you in a way no one else does. They feel like warmth on a cold night, like sugar dripping into your veins. But charm is their weapon, and affection is the blade hidden beneath silk. This is the smiling saboteur. They know exactly how to mirror your desires, reflect your dreams, and speak in the language of your longings. You feel seen, valued, needed, but beneath the polish, every word, every gesture, every laugh is calculated. Like a beautifully wrapped poison, it tastes sweet, but it corrodes from the inside. Perhaps it is the colleague who praises your every idea, yet subtly undermines your progress in meetings. Or the friend who always knows how to comfort you but leaves you questioning your worth when they are gone. Maybe it is the lover who seems devoted, yet slowly erases your identity with a joke, a tease, a suggestion. This charm is deliberate, a camouflage perfected by repetition and study. You cannot easily see it, because the heart wants to trust and the mind wants to believe. But trust, unguarded, becomes a trap. The smiling saboteur does not yell or scream. They whisper, they entice, they make comfort lethal. We are wired for connection. Belonging is as essential as air, and that very need blinds us. The allure of belonging is subtle, like a fog creeping through the mind. You want to feel seen, loved, validated, and this desire opens a door that toxic influence slips through unnoticed. Maybe you stay in friendships that drain you simply because walking away feels like isolation. Perhaps you forgive betrayals in love because the idea of being alone terrifies you more than the betrayal itself. This longing is human, universal, and yet it makes you vulnerable. Carl Jung observed that we project our inner desires onto others, expecting them to fill spaces they were never meant to occupy. In modern life, social media amplifies this longing, showing curated lives that make us crave belonging more desperately. You are drawn to people who reflect a mirror of what you want to see, not necessarily the truth. And because you are human, the temptation to believe in warmth, attention, and affection, even when it masks danger, is nearly irresistible. Awareness is the only antidote. Because love that consumes or diminishes is never love, it is a reflection of your own unmet need, exploited. Delusions do not shatter suddenly. Toxicity often arrives as a slow-motion betrayal, almost imperceptible until the moment it leaves you gasping. You may notice a pattern only after months, even years. The word repeated, a gesture withheld, a promise subtly broken. These fragments accumulate until your foundation trembles. This is the nature of gradual deception. Cinematically, it is like watching a mirror crack slowly, each line growing until the whole reflection distorts. The friend who constantly demands favors but vanishes in your moments of need. The partner who teases or dismisses, eroding self-worth piece by piece. The co-worker who smiles and praises while subtly shifting blame onto you. Each act alone feels minor, tolerable, forgivable, yet together they form a lattice of control, manipulation, and erosion. The danger lies in the pace. Human perception often adjusts to slow deterioration. Only when you step back and see the pattern does clarity arrive, harsh and undeniable. You realize that what felt safe and comforting was a carefully constructed illusion, and the realization, though painful, is liberating. You must remember, sweetness does not always nourish. Attention is not always care, and affection can mask the sharpest poison. Recognition is your first line of defense, and reflection is your shield. The smiling saboteur thrives in the gray, where trust blurs with manipulation. Belonging is not a weakness, but unawareness is, and illusions, once unmasked, lose their power. See the charm for what it is, and you reclaim your freedom. You meet people not by accident. Your wounds call them to you long before you see them. Your shadow is alive. It is not the darkness you fear. It is the unseen script running behind every thought, every decision, every attachment. Carl Jung warned that what we refuse to see in ourselves manifests outside, shaping the world around us. Your unresolved trauma, your insecurities, your old hurts. They act like magnets, pulling certain people into your orbit. Perhaps it is the critic who echoes the voice you once heard in childhood, telling you that you are not enough, or the manipulator whose charm seems familiar because it mimics the attention you were starved for. These are not coincidences. Your shadow, the hidden, rejected parts of your psyche, radiates patterns that attract those who can exploit them. Imagine walking through a dark hall with a lantern. The flicker of light draws the creatures of the night closer. Your unhealed wounds are that flicker, subtle yet irresistible to those attuned to your vulnerabilities. This is not punishment, it is a mirror, a reflection of what you have not yet faced. Recognition is your first weapon. By seeing your shadow, by naming your fears and acknowledging your scars, you cease to be an unwitting magnet and begin to reclaim your field of influence. Awareness transforms the invisible chains into a map, guiding you toward liberation rather than repetition. Patterns do not emerge by chance. They repeat relentlessly because the mind seeks familiarity, even when it brings pain. You have felt it, the inexplicable pull toward the same type of person, the same toxic dynamic, over and over. A friend betrays you, a lover manipulates you, a colleague undermines you, and yet when another similar figure appears, you walk straight into the trap. Cinematically, it is like watching a film on repeat, each scene slightly altered, but with the same devastating ending. The world seems to conspire to remind you of your old wounds, testing your blind spots, your unexamined instincts. Jung called this the compulsion to repeat, a force of the unconscious that drags unresolved experiences into the present until they are fully integrated. You may feel powerless, trapped in inevitability, but the key lies in recognition. When you can pause, when you can reflect, when you can see the recurring script, you begin to break the chain. Awareness does not remove the shadows instantly, but it shines light long enough for you to navigate the darkness with intent, to step out of the cycle of self-sabotage into conscious choice. The pain you carry shapes every choice more than you realize. Often it is not logic that guides you, but the old, unspoken wounds pressing for resolution. You select partners who echo past neglect, friends who confirm your fears, colleagues who trigger insecurities, all because the mind seeks to master the unresolved pain by reliving it. Perhaps you choose someone unreliable because deep down you feel unworthy of stability. Maybe you stay in friendships that drain your joy because leaving would awaken old abandonment fears. Even in the workplace, you gravitate toward dynamics that replicate early hierarchies of control or judgment. This is not weakness, it is a survival instinct misapplied, a shadow-guided strategy designed to heal what you have not yet faced. Understanding this is both painful and liberating. You begin to see that your choices are not random failures, but reflections of what is unfinished within. The raw, uncomfortable truth is that healing starts with self-awareness, not external correction. By acknowledging the hidden compass of your wounds, you gain the power to choose differently, to refuse unconscious patterns, and to step into relationships and environments that serve growth instead of perpetuating pain. Your shadow is not a curse, it is a guide. Each person drawn to you, each painful repetition, is a teacher in disguise, offering lessons on recognition, boundaries, and self-mastery. The key is not to fight the shadow or wish it away, but to illuminate it, to meet it without fear, to understand the magnets you emit and the energies you attract. Only then can you navigate life consciously, selecting connections that honor your integrity rather than exploit your vulnerability. Awareness transforms attraction from unconscious entanglement into deliberate choice. You begin to reclaim the narrative, to break the cycles, and to walk through the world with a measured, illuminated step. Face your shadows, and you stop being prey to them. You see yourself clearly only when the world shatters the reflection you trusted. Life does not explode in a single moment of betrayal. It erodes quietly, piece by piece, like water slowly wearing away stone. Manipulation, deceit, subtle undermining. They do not arrive with a bang, but with whispers, delays, half-truths. A friend who consistently dismisses your emotions. A partner whose love comes with conditions, eroding your boundaries. A colleague who praises loudly but undermines subtly. Each act alone may seem minor, almost forgivable, yet together they carve cracks in the foundation of your identity. You begin to doubt your instincts, question your memory, reconsider your own worth. Cinematically, imagine a house built of glass, polished and shining, slowly hit by unseen forces, one crack at first, then another, until the whole structure trembles. You may try to hold it together, pretending nothing has changed, yet inside, the pieces of who you thought you were are splintering. The erosion is not always obvious to those around you, but within the storm rages. Your confidence becomes fragile, your energy drained, your sense of self fragmented. Survival feels exhausting because every interaction demands vigilance, and yet you are often blindsided. The slow disassembly of identity is invisible to others, but the pain, the confusion, the silent panic, it is real, cinematic, and devastating. Outwardly, you may appear calm, composed, even successful, but inside, chaos reigns. Internal turmoil battles with the mask you wear for the world. Perhaps you laugh and converse, hold meetings, socialize, and yet your mind is a battlefield of doubt and fear. Carl Jung noted that the persona, the mask we present to society, can hide profound internal suffering. You may act confident while replaying conversations, analyzing every word, every glance, every subtle gesture for hidden meaning. You may rehearse responses, calculate reactions, and constantly question your value. The contrast between outer appearance and inner reality grows like a chasm, each day widening. You feel alone even in crowds, trapped in a split existence where the world sees a version of you that is carefully constructed, while your true self struggles to breathe. The tension is relentless, like walking on a tightrope over a stormy sea. The fear of falling, of exposure, of collapse is constant. Your inner chaos becomes a silent antagonist, shaping every choice, every hesitation, every interaction. The most haunting element is how these toxic influences reflect your own insecurities back to you. They are mirrors, showing not only what is, but what you fear most about yourself. A colleague's criticism may echo the voice that told you you were inadequate as a child. A partner's subtle contempt reflects your own unacknowledged self-doubt. A friend's betrayal amplifies fears of abandonment, long buried. Each toxic interaction magnifies what you hoped was hidden, forcing confrontation with insecurities you had not yet faced. This reflection is painful because it feels like the truth, yet it is distorted by their intent. The mirror does not lie. It exaggerates, twists, and exposes vulnerability. You start questioning your judgment, your memory, your perception. Even simple decisions become fraught with doubt because the shadows of these people loom over every thought. The experience is haunting, cinematic, and deeply personal, because it forces you to witness how powerfully external forces can manipulate your internal world. The danger is intimate, no distant threat, no abstract idea, but the erosion of your very sense of self. Yet understanding this process is the first step toward reclaiming agency. Recognizing that identity fragmentation is not a flaw in you, but the effect of manipulation and sustained pressure, begins the path to reconstruction. The storm outside has reflected the storm within, but storms can pass, and structures can be rebuilt stronger than before. By facing the chaos, acknowledging the cracks, and observing the mirrors that distort reality, you start piecing together fragments into coherence. You realize that your essence is not lost, only buried under layers of external influence. Strength begins with awareness, and with awareness comes the possibility of reassembling your identity consciously, choosing what to keep, what to discard, and what to rebuild anew. Even in pieces, you are whole when you choose yourself. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. You have clung to memories, replaying moments in a loop, convinced that what you lost was love. Nostalgia is a thief. It dresses pain in warmth, longing in rose-colored light. Perhaps you remember the laughter, the gestures of kindness, the promises whispered in the quiet hours, and you tell yourself it was real. But memory is a shadowy mirror, reflecting what you wish had happened, not what truly did. Guilt whispers that leaving, detaching, or resisting meant failure, that your desire to be loved was a flaw punished by circumstance. You may revisit old messages, old photographs, old conversations, searching for warmth that never existed. Like a cinematic slow-motion reel, the images charm and deceive simultaneously, blurring boundaries between fact and longing. Carl Jung observed that projection often clouds judgment. We see what we want to see, not what is. By stripping away nostalgia and guilt, you begin to reveal the underlying truth. The affection you cherished may have been a reflection of your own unmet need, not a gift freely given. Liberation begins here, when you stop worshipping the illusion and start honoring reality. The act of seeing clearly, even painfully, is the first step toward reclaiming your emotional sovereignty. The truth is sharp. What once felt like care, love, or friendship was often manipulation in disguise. A partner who praised you only to tether you. A friend who gave attention only to extract loyalty, favors, or validation. A colleague whose apparent support camouflaged control. The gestures you interpreted as affection were tactics designed to bend your choices, erode your boundaries, and make you dependent on the approval they offered. You may have mistaken charm for sincerity, attention for empathy, and presence for devotion. These people mastered subtlety, making you feel valued while secretly eroding the foundation of your confidence. The revelation is cinematic in its clarity. The very warmth you sought was the instrument of your entrapment. Modern life provides endless examples. The social media influencer who smiles at engagement but exploits vulnerability for gain. The coworker who praises in public while undermining privately. The friend whose loyalty is conditional. By recognizing true intentions, you pierce the veil. Sharp, precise awareness replaces blurred longing. You no longer justify their behavior, you name it, and naming is power. Clarity is liberation, because what was disguised as love is stripped to its essence: self-interest, control, and power. Acceptance is the final step, and it brings freedom you have not yet tasted. To acknowledge that it was never love is not to blame yourself. It is to release the chains of expectation. Detachment is not failure, it is survival. You no longer carry guilt for leaving, nor do you mourn a warmth that never existed. Instead, you breathe lighter, unburdened, stepping into a world where your energy, focus, and love are reserved for those who align with your integrity. You realize that holding on to the illusion harmed you more than letting go ever could. The liberation feels cinematic, like rising from a shadowed valley into light, where clarity illuminates the path forward. Relationships now become deliberate choices, not unconscious repetitions. The past no longer controls your present. You begin to understand that freedom is found not in revenge, not in longing, but in acknowledgement, seeing clearly, accepting truth, and choosing life on your own terms. The heart, once entangled in illusion, now learns the rhythm of authentic connection and the power of self-directed love. See the truth, release the shadow, and step into freedom. You cannot change anything until you accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. Your shadow waits for you, not outside, but within. The parts of yourself you hide, deny, or fear are alive, shaping your choices in ways you have not yet understood. Carl Jung warned that confronting the shadow is not optional, it is the path to wholeness. You feel the sting of past betrayals, the echo of manipulated trust, the weight of unhealed wounds. But these are not chains, they are keys. To face the darkness within, you must descend into the depths of your own psyche, acknowledging fear, anger, and longing without shame or judgment. Perhaps you have denied your vulnerability, pretending strength meant ignoring pain. Perhaps you have masked doubt with a smile, or buried grief beneath productivity. Confronting the shadow requires courage, because it forces you to see the parts of yourself that have been co-opted by trauma, that have attracted toxicity, that have deferred your power. Imagine standing in a dark forest, where every step reveals hidden roots and tangled branches. The danger is real, but so is the path forward. By owning your vulnerabilities, naming your fears, and observing the patterns that once controlled you, you ignite a spark of agency. The darkness ceases to be an enemy and becomes a guide, showing where you have been manipulated and where you have left pieces of yourself behind. Awareness transforms fear into strategy. Once you recognize the patterns of toxicity, the subtle manipulation, the smiles hiding intent, the cycles that repeat, you gain the ability to anticipate and protect. Each toxic person becomes a predator whose approach you now perceive clearly, not blindly. Like a chess master surveying the board, you begin to see moves before they are made. A colleague's charm no longer lures you into overcommitment. A friend's subtle pressure no longer bends your boundaries. A lover's conditional affection no longer steals your sense of worth. This strategic awareness allows you to respond rather than react, to preempt rather than repair. In modern life, this may look like setting firm boundaries on social media, declining invitations that drain energy, or confronting subtle manipulation in professional settings. You become the hunter in the forest, no longer the unaware prey. The skill of turning pain into strategy is not cold calculation, it is fierce self-respect, a reclamation of energy, time, and focus. The predators remain, but you navigate around them with precision and intent. Each encounter reinforces your strength, each recognition sharpens your discernment, each boundary protects your sovereignty. Reclaiming your identity and space is the final cinematic step. The shadow is no longer a specter that haunts your choices. It is a compass pointing toward self-sovereignty. You reconstruct boundaries, deciding who and what deserves access to your life, energy, and emotions. You no longer allow subtle undermining, covert criticism, or disguised control to dictate your path. Instead, you reclaim your time, your love, your focus. Your identity, once fragmented by external forces, consolidates into a whole self-aware of strengths, limitations, and values. Imagine standing on a cliff at dawn, the horizon wide and open, the wind sharp and invigorating. You are rooted, yet expansive, alert, yet free. Modern life offers endless challenges, but with awareness, strategy, and boundaries, You navigate them not as a victim, but as a master of your own inner landscape. This reclamation is cinematic, triumphant, and deeply satisfying. By meeting the shadow, you do not erase the past. You integrate it, transforming scars into wisdom, pain into power, and vulnerability into courage. The shadow faced becomes the light you carry forward. Peace is not found by fleeing the storm, but by learning to stand in its eye. You have seen the chaos. You have felt the weight of manipulation, betrayal, and repeated cycles of toxicity. And now, at last, recognition arrives. A quiet, cinematic moment of clarity. The smiling saboteurs, the shadowed patterns, the fractures in your sense of self. They are no longer invisible forces controlling you. Awareness is a gentle dawn breaking across a roared sky. You feel the tension in your chest ease, the tight knots of doubt loosening. Relief is profound, almost physical, like taking a deep breath after months underwater. Carl Jung said that by facing the unconscious, the mind gains freedom. Here, by naming the toxic patterns, you claim dominion over your emotional terrain. The clarity is not merely intellectual, it is visceral. You feel a release in your body, a recalibration of energy that signals the beginning of sovereignty. The predators that once prowled unnoticed around your life are now visible. The shadows are illuminated, and for the first time, the world feels less like a trap and more like a landscape you can navigate with intention. Recognition is the first act of peace. It does not erase the past, but it strips the power of chaos over your present. With this clarity comes the power of choice. You no longer engage with every storm that approaches. Selective engagement becomes your shield and compass. Relationships, environments, and even fleeting interactions are measured against the standard of your own well-being. Perhaps it is declining invitations that sap your energy, limiting social media exposure that amplifies self-doubt, or choosing friends and partners who honor boundaries and integrity. The process is tactical yet deeply humane. You discern without cruelty, you reject without anger, and you embrace without fear. Like a gardener pruning a wild, overgrown hedge, you remove what chokes life from your inner space, allowing growth and sunlight to reach what matters. Wisdom replaces impulse, and discernment becomes a daily practice. Each choice is a declaration that your energy, your attention, and your love are not commodities to be taken, but treasures to be guarded and directed. You experience the subtle joy of being in control, not in a rigid, controlling way, but with fluid mastery over what enters your life and what does not. Finally, life beyond toxicity reveals itself not as a distant dream, but as a present possibility. You see yourself walking through the world with intentionality, each step measured, each connection chosen. Inner peace becomes habitual, not accidental. The chaos of others no longer dictates the rhythm of your heart. You pursue growth consciously, learning, creating, loving, and engaging without fear of exploitation or repetition. Even setbacks now serve as signposts, reminding you of boundaries and priorities rather than plunging you into despair. The cinematic vision unfolds. Mornings feel lighter, nights calmer, laughter more genuine. You cultivate spaces of reflection and restoration, aligning every action with the essence of who you are becoming. The path of self-directed life is illuminated by awareness, choice, and the courage to prioritize peace above noise. Through every encounter, every decision, every breath, you assert your right to tranquility, to clarity, and to freedom. Choose peace, and the world bends to the calm within you.